What's up everybody, and welcome back. So today I have an Isekai Otome manga recommendation. Please don't run away because I just said that, because this is probably the most unique Isekai Otome manga I've ever read. And I say that like I've read a lot, but I think I've only ever read like 2. Today I'm recommending Villager A Wants to Save the Villainous No Matter What. This is an adventure fantasy school life Isekai manga with only 28 chapters so far, and it's being made by Meguro Sankichi and Ishiki Kotaro. And it is one of the most unique Isekai Otomes I've ever read, like I said before, because I've honestly never read anything like it in the sense of how they're approaching this Otome Isekai. Now, there are other Otome Isekais, and if you don't know what an Otome is, it's a kind of dating sim game where you get to choose who you want to pursue, or if you want, obviously, the harem ending. Except for this, the main character, Alan, was isekai'd into this Otome game as a mob character, because this is a reverse harem Otome game. And Alan was isekai'd into this just as a regular villager guy, except obviously he knows everything about the game. Why? Because he beat it a whole bunch of times for his sister. So in this game, obviously the plot is similar to basically any generic fantasy Otome game you could think of that's a reverse harem, where the main female, Amy, was a nobody, turns out to be the bastard of some baron or noble person, and then the prince and all the other handsome dudes in the kingdom, who are like the most powerful people, fall in love with her. For Alan, he's just a normal guy. He's a normal poor kid, just not living in the slums, but he's a poor guy living with his mom. They're just trying to make it by. So he wakes up to his memories when he's like 8 years old. Why? I have absolutely no idea, but that's just what happens. At 8 years old, he wakes up one day with the memories of his previous life, or of his, life that he was isekai'd from, and he has one goal in mind, and that goal is to save the villainess, Anastasia. Is she an actual villain? No. From the explanation, she's nowhere close to a villainess, but she's called the villainess because she's engaged to the prince, so she's kind of standing in the way of the main Otome character, Amy, from the prince loving her and them being together. So in that sense, she's the villainess. Is she the villainess of the story? Not even close. But with his memories back, he wants to save her because he knows if you follow the story of the Otome game and you complete the harem ending, that leads to war. Because Anastasia doesn't marry the prince, the kingdom kind of weakens because it breaks apart a little bit, and they get invaded by another nation, causing the collapse of the kingdom. Alan, knowing this, having beaten the game, I guess multiple times, is like, I can't have that happen because A, he doesn't want himself or his mother to die, and he doesn't want the people of the kingdom to actually die because he's like, I've been here for 8 years, I have the memories from being here, and I have the memories and knowledge from my life. I don't want to see that happen because it's a real world. It's not like he's stuck in a video game. It's a real world. If they die, they're dead. So he obviously uses his knowledge of the game to game the world. So instead of Amy, the main character of the Otome game, finding these special abilities or these scrolls that grant special skills, he goes out and he takes them for himself, essentially breaking the canonical lore of the world and the game. So what was supposed to happen doesn't happen, obviously. And by keeping these things from happening, he's able to then leverage these abilities to be able to save Anastasia. Because what was supposed to happen is the typical Otome thing where Anastasia hates Amy, they feud, the prince kicks Anastasia out of the kingdom, he exiles her, and then that leads to the big kerfuffle that then leads to the downfall of the kingdom. But because of Alan's intervention, and honestly, he intervened much farther into the story than he probably needed to. Like, he stopped the main event from happening, which was Anastasia getting kicked out, but then he also went farther and got like a whole bunch of other things that apparently Amy wasn't gonna collect until after the main event of Anastasia getting kicked out. But listen, he knows the game, and he worked towards that since 8. So even though though he does that, that's not even the whole story. Because this is why I really like this telling of an isekai otome. Because he does what he has set out to do already. In these 28 chapters, he has already saved Anastasia from getting kicked out, gotten all these abilities, and yet the story's still going. Because the main point of the story isn't to save Anastasia from this event. In part it is, but in part I think it's kind of leveraging it to make it its own world and its own story. Because now that he's saved Anastasia, he doesn't know what's going to happen after this point, because obviously it's not in the game, because he changed everything. On top of that, you come to find out that Amy is also an isekai person into this world who was, I guess, perfectly fine with destroying the kingdom and letting it fall because she would have gotten the harem ending. So we'll see what happens with that. I think she's figured out that Alan is an isekai person also, so I'm guessing they're gonna be beefing, and Anastasia and Alan have developed feelings for each other, which I'm all for. Is it gonna work out because Alan is just a regular villager and Anastasia is a duke's daughter? Of course it's gonna work out. This is manga we're talking about. Obviously, they're gonna find a way. Alan's gonna do something and become nobility, and then they're gonna be all fine with them getting married, or Anastasia's just gonna leave the dukedom to be with Alan. Regardless, I love this manga. I found it and caught up with it in a day. It's sweet, it's funny, it's charming in many ways, and honestly, I like that the pace is pretty quick. I mean, there's like 3 time jumps already, from him being 8 to then 12 to then like 15 or 16 when he's able to go to high school. I like that the story has been consistently and constantly progressing. We had a mission, we completed the mission, and it didn't take the entire story to do so. And now we're free to explore what else may happen in this world that is unknown to Alan and thus unknown to us as well. On top of that, obviously Alan has isekai reincarnated knowledge, and apparently he was like an aerospace engineer or something, so he basically builds himself a plane that he flies with magic, which is pretty dope. Now the one thing that I don't really enjoy isn't the art style. The art style is basic enough, it's more than fine. The one thing I really don't enjoy is the guns, because Alan makes guns, and I don't know what it is, but fantasy plus guns, it just has to be done right, or it has to be like a common thing in the world. I don't know, like there's ways to do it and there's ways to not, and I'm not saying that this is terrible, but I don't know what it is. Isekai things in a fantasy world and then the person has guns, I've never been a fan of it. And Alan makes guns, I'm not a fan of him using guns. It's kind of lame to me. Just pick up the sword, learn the sword, or use your magic, you know? I get you have isekai knowledge and you were like an engineer, but you already got a plane. I don't think you need guns too. And you were blessed by like the god of wind magic, so come on, bro. But honestly, that's the only thing that I don't enjoy. I don't really think there are many mangas I do enjoy fantasy plus guns, unless it's like an outset kind of like this is the basis of the world. But in this, not the best. But if you're looking for something sweet, something fun, something honestly more built on relationship development and a fast story that actually gets to the point and doesn't lollygag around or try and draw things out, I think this is a great recommendation for you. Again, I caught up with it in a day, which is not unheard of for me, but that's how much I enjoyed it. I just wanted to keep reading more. It was a, well, I gotta see what happens in the next chapter kind of read. And apparently it's based on a web novel that actually does continue past Villager A. So it goes to like Townsman A or something. So there is a continuation. So hopefully, if enough people read this manga, we get to see the actual full story developed out. If you want to though, you can read the web novel and you can read the continuation. The continuation is ongoing, but that is an option for you if you don't feel like just adding another manga to the list. But for me, I'm always looking for another one to add to the list. And if you're looking for others to add to your list, well, check out the playlist of why you should in the description box down below. Or check out the TooTaku podcast for other recommendations. And if you enjoyed, like the video, subscribe to the channel, as we are trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, and your subscription would be greatly appreciated. But other than that, I will see all of you in the next one.